it doesn't matter how deep my faith is, I'm afraid, what if God doesn't come through? I've always heard stories, I couldn't pay my rent, and all of a sudden I got this check in the mail, and I've always thought, how come that never happens to me? And this morning after I prayed, I'm pinned in. I'm literally pinned in, just like Balaam. You're going to have to come through. And he did. Welcome back to Lavender Fields Flop, where we do the flop so you don't have to.
Is that our new punchline?
Is that what? Is that?
It's usually so we make the mistakes so you don't have to.
We make the mistakes. That's my flop for the week.
No, your flop for the week was clapping.
Well, that is true.
Trying to, for all those who don't know, when you start, that's why they have the little thing that says action.
Yeah.
You clap to line up the microphones, all the audio. And maybe the editor can make a quick 5-second to 10-second montage there of the...
Please do, Malachi.
Yeah.
I might good.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hey, I got it. Okay, already. I can't.
But
anyways,
yes.
I got us started. I'm Michelle. This is my co-host, Ethan.
Yes. Today first off, we're glad to have you guys back on another podcast. And today we're going to be talking more about discouragement, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going to bridge the gap of discouragement and where do we see God at the end of it?
Yeah, I guess. Well, we'll see what happens. So our flop for the week, and I think maybe this is where our podcast will come from, is just, and what's funny is we talked last week about discouragement, and I think my flop for the week was discouragement.
Yeah.
And just feeling discouraged, just coming out here in the workshop and making soaps, making candles.
It's just day in and day out for both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
You have 1 success and 9 unsuccessful, and it just wears you down.
You don't realize how much work goes into something until you do it.
Yeah. And the stressfulness of it. It's stressful.
Especially when you own your own business. There's no one to save you.
It's true. Except Sarah. Shout out to Sarah. My
Another
mentor in the soaping.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send her a picture. And I had some soap come out, I guess it was last week, and it had this hole in the middle of it filled with
goo,
this white goo. And I just sent her a picture of it with a shrug. I was like, I don't even know. And she told me it was something scientific.
She did wrong.
Scientific and hot. It's too hot and this and that. And, she said, I did it too. And, so just to have somebody there to encourage you is helpful. So that was my flop.
Well, I think we'll just go off of your flop for this week.
Okay.
We've had a lot of flops.
Yeah.
But you wanted to talk about the story of Balaam's donkey today.
Yeah.
And how that was sort of like us. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little before we go into how that's relatable for us.
Well, yeah, I came across, sometimes I'll just sit with my Bible and I just open it. And a couple of weeks ago, I opened it. This is Numbers 22. And it's the story of Balaam's donkey. And Balaam and his donkey. And, it's the kind of thing where you're like, oh, I've read this a million times. And the story of Balaam's just weird anyways. Was he good? Was he bad? What was he? But sometimes the Lord just really speaks to you, even though you've read the story a bunch of times. And sometimes I go back to that story and what I felt like God showed me that day. And it helps me. It kind of realigns me, I guess. So, I'll just go into the story, just a really quick recap of Balaam's donkey. We all think about, Balaam's donkey, he hit his donkey. And
maybe you don't know the story. I don't know.
Maybe not. So Numbers 22, he hits his donkey and the donkey actually talks to him. But before that was what I had never seen before. And that, Balaam's riding along and he's going somewhere. And
didn't the Lord tell him to?
I can't remember. I can't ever remember if God wanted him to go to, I think it's the Moabites. I don't know. And talk good about God. They wanted him to talk bad about God, but he was going, and God didn't want him to go there. I think. I don't know. I'm bad at that part. That's not.
But the interesting story about Balaam's donkey is that Balaam and his donkey is that when you hear the story, you think he's a prophet.
Right.
Like just the sort of the story and what's happening. But he wasn't.
But he was. But he wasn't.
But he was like a spirit.
Yeah, what is that called? Divination or
Yeah.
Yeah. But God used him. So that's why I'm always confused about it.
His story is an interesting one.
It is. So, but this is what I had seen is that, so, here he goes. He's riding his donkey, and his donkey sees this angel in the middle of the road with his sword drawn. But Balaam, of course, doesn't. But the donkey does. So she pulls off to the side of the road.
All of a sudden, we have genders now.
Well, when I looked it up.
Oh, it did?
It said she.
Well, there you go. You learned something new.
The NIV. Yeah, I think that's what I read. Anyway, so Balaam gets off the donkey and he's fussing at the donkey. So at this point, the donkey was able to veer off into a field. So Balaam gets back on the donkey and they're going down the path. And now it says that they're sort of in a vineyard and there's a wall on both sides of them. And the donkey sees the angel of the Lord again, with sword drawn. Well, the donkey can't veer off the road. So the donkey kind of goes to this side and to that side and scratches up Balaam's leg or something. I'm terrible at this. Something this, something that.
A lot of unknowns.
So Balaam fusses at the donkey again and gets back on, and they're going, and it says that they're kind of in this crevice or to this point where they're hemmed in. And the angel of the Lord appears again. Only the donkey sees the angel and like just goes down onto the ground because she can't go to the right or the left. And that's when Balaam hits the donkey and the donkey speaks to Balaam. What was after that Balaam actually finally saw the angel of the Lord standing there. And so the idea that I got was it's when we are pinned in and we can't go anywhere else that maybe we're willing to finally see God.
We seem to be, as humans, always find a way to not want to turn to God.
Yeah.
There's many a times in the Bible where people have not gone God's way or what would be the evident way to follow God.
Right. And deliberately disobeyed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Saul is the first one that came to my mind, or that dude that hoarded the money, the Israelites, he hoarded the money and then his whole family. Starts with an A. Anyways.
Yeah, the one with I forget.
Yeah, that one. Look that one up. Anyways.
the king's name started with a J, or the leader. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Maybe not.
It'll come to me later after we're done with the podcast. But anyways, lots of examples in the Bible, people who disobey God. And we're the same way. And we were just talking about it and how I feel like for me, I don't know about you.
Well, I also want to say, I don't think it's just disobeying God.
Yeah,
I think
right.
sometimes too, it's just going your own way.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that.
It's just not giving it to God, not following God, not walking in faith.
Yeah.
And going your own way. And
I could tell you a thing about that too. You
what?
have this tell. When I've said something like I'm off topic and I just didn't say it just right, you have this tell that you're like trying to process what I said. You'd be like, wait, what? And then you bring it back. I appreciate that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's what happens 22 years.
Yeah.
Living with somebody. So I feel like for me and our farm, God's way of pinning us in is with finances. And I feel like even in my own life, like for me, I mean, God says you can't serve two gods. You can't serve God and money. And I think money is power.
Money's control.
And we can make things happen if we have money. And God, I feel like he always just gives us enough.
I think it's been that way my whole life.
It has. And I wish it could be different, but then I go back to he's never let us down.
No.
He's always taken care of us. And he, think about the parable of you can trust this person with a lot, so you can trust him with more. I guess maybe God can't trust me with a little or a lot, and he just gives me what I need.
I feel like it's gotten better though, actually, since we were little.
Maybe.
I feel like you and my dad have learned things with faith and trust
Oh, yeah.
because of finances, and I feel
Mhm.
like God does trust you guys with more now.
Yeah, I think so. But we don't just have unlimited money. And I think if we did, as strong as our faith is, I think that we would take control. Like you said, money is control. You can control things with money. And so
That's something me and you struggle with a lot. Control.
Yeah. Some I think, yeah, more than others. But yeah, and we
Like
talked
we
about
have
that last week.
listeners too that do. And
Yeah. And sure. So I think one of the ways I feel pinned in, probably the most in my life, is with finances. And when if I had finances, I could pull off to the field and
do your own thing.
do my own
Yeah.
thing. But when I'm completely pinned in is when I actually do see God. I see God because there's no other answer. There's no other way. I'm stuck and I have to have God intervene. And if we just had unlimited finances, I would never be stuck. And so I think it does grow your faith.
Yeah.
And especially here on the farm. Oh, were you going to say something?
I just think there's multiple things too. Like I think you were going to say on the farm, one of them was propagations for us.
Yeah.
This last year, especially this last year, things kept failing and failing and failing, and we sort of were doing the definition of insanity.
We were
doing it over and over and over and
Yeah.
over, and it wasn't working until we finally listened to God.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we put heaters in.
in and used different little pods, and
Yeah. We changed up because we've never had that problem. In August, propagating, that's like prime time. And everything should have been working. And we were just pinned in. Things weren't rooting. And that was when we changed gears of how we were doing it. And because of that, we had to put heat in the greenhouse this year. In the past, everything's been established, so we didn't have to have the heat. But it was a game changer for us in that now, middle of February, we're able to propagate off of our propagations. So that was a game changer for us.
yeah,
And we were pinned in. We tried to force our way into it.
and of course, like we talked about last podcast, our go-to is quitting.
Yeah.
We seem to want to quit before giving God control sometimes.
Because that is our control. That's our way of controlling it. And the farm for me is like right now, I am pinned in on this farm. When I started it, it was just me. And it was, I'm going to quit my job and start this farm. And then it became bigger. And then we brought you on. And I'm pinned in because
It's no longer a hobby.
it's not a hobby and I can't quit. If I quit the farm now, I let you down.
Well, yeah, but it's not just that.
Well,
I just think it's important to note to our viewers that that's not the reason you're doing the farm.
oh no.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying
There's consequences to your actions now.
I'm to the point of no return.
Yes.
And I mean, at this point, we have a lot of our own resources into it. So if I just quit, then I've let you down because this is what you want to do too. And we just dumped a lot of savings into the farm. So again, pinned in. And I think that's where I have to give up control and where I can see God. And so,
Why do you think we have such a hard time with control?
I was going to say, I think that if we physically saw God, we wouldn't need to have as much
I
control.
feel like we
but
talked about this on the last
yeah.
podcast too, about the Israelites, and I don't know, maybe we're on our control series.
Maybe so.
It's just something we struggle with a lot. At least me and you,
Yeah.
we're very much alike.
And I don't know if that's a personality thing or if more people, I mean, everybody wants to be in control, but do some want to control more than others? But maybe it's that strong-willed because you and I are both very strong-willed people. And it's this idea that, well, I can do it. I'll just do it.
Why do you think we can't see like past like sequences in our lives and realize that maybe God is putting us into a place where we can't get out?
Because we don't want to be there. Nobody wants to be pinned in. I think, does that answer? I mean, that was my
but
first thought.
why don't we follow God before we're pinned in? Why do we?
Because we're blinded, I guess. Like Balaam, he couldn't see the angel of the Lord. He was just blinded, and he didn't want to.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's like we get so used to our normal daily lives where things are going maybe not good or bad. It's just normal. And unintentionally we rely on ourselves because if I don't get out of bed and eat breakfast, no one's going to feed me. Right. You can't just sit and pray, oh God, fill my stomach.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hard line as humans where do we bridge the gap of the things that we have to do and rely on ourselves and the things that we let go of?
I think it's fear. For me, what if I lean on God 100% and he doesn't come through? That's the biggest thing. And I've thought that with the farm. I
think you thought that my whole life.
What?
What you just said.
Oh, what if God doesn't come through? Yeah.
And maybe that's why you guys have always felt like you're withheld by finances.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because that's the one area that I can't get more of,
It's like that one point where it's like, it feels impossible to give God 100% control.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Money.
At least for me, I always have a backup plan.
Yeah.
My backup plan, if God doesn't come through, here's my backup plan. But with finances, we've always in our life, we've put our family before. We're not going to go work 3 jobs and abandon our kids just so we can have more money. We just lived more resourcefully, and it's hard to have a backup plan with your finances.
Do you have a backup plan now?
For what?
Money.
No, I don't. And that's what's scary. And
like, actually, you don't have a backup plan now?
I guess my backup plan, and we've talked about it before, would be that Daddy would go back to work. He works. He would go back to a miserable job being an accountant. Whereas right now he's a bus driver.
And he works on the farm.
So he really essentially works 2 jobs. He
works 2 part-time jobs.
2 part-time jobs. But he's not getting paid yet for the farm. Like,
none of us
putting
are.
his resources and his time into it, and we just believe with all our heart that God is leading this. And so I guess my backup plan is that he wouldn't be here and we would be lost. He does so much in the time between his 2 routes. We would be down a man.
Yeah.
And that would devastate our production here, because you and I can't keep up with that.
No, we've tried.
Yeah. So,
but how do you think what you've just said is your backup plan is survival mode?
Yes, absolutely. Good way of
and
putting
God
it.
has shown us in the past that he doesn't make us survive. We might not have a lot, but we're not having to survive. Can I say?
Yeah.
Survive in the way of, like, all emotions go out the door. You're going to work even though you hate it. You're just working and making money to survive. I don't feel like we've ever been there.
No, I agree with that. Well,
in the past, I don't know.
No, I think God gives us enough. He's always given us enough that we don't have to survive. And you would think that I would.
That's what I was going to ask, is how can we get better at that?
I don't know. I don't. Okay. I will say, I think to get better at that for myself, I have to be pinned in. I have to be like Balaam, and I can't have backup plan number 1. I can't have backup plan number 2, and I have to be pinned in. And that's what I feel like on the farm right now It,
So with that saying, are you saying you don't ever think you can grow to where you don't have to be pinned in?
for myself, I mean, maybe, I mean, I'm 52 years old and I'm just now figuring that one out. So, I mean, maybe if I live to be 150, maybe I'd figure it out. But I think there's that part of me. It doesn't matter how deep my faith is. I'm afraid, what if God doesn't come through? And I think the farm has been so good for us because we all believe God's hand is in this. He gave it to us. He sees us through. He gives us ideas before we need them. He gives us resources. You can go back and watch our podcast leading up to that, you know?
Yeah.
Uh
Also was reiterated literally today.
yeah. My story from this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this morning, I feel right now very.
You don't have to overshare if you
No,
don't.
I'm not.
Or you
No,
don't
but
even have to share
I
it.
feel very pinned in right now because the majority of our income happens June and July. I mean, we're a lavender farm. So once lavender season starts, 4 or 5 days a week, 5 days a week, we've got customers coming in,
Yeah.
you pick,
And that's
shopping in our store.
That's been
and
something we've been trying for years. And I think we're getting closer to being able to have money roll in year long because of the
Yes.
website.
Yeah. And we just can't get that website up and going. So any viewers out there that want to
Do our website for free. I'm just kidding.
no, I just mean, tell us what to do to get people to the website to shop. But so it's very daunting right now when there's no resources coming in for the farm, but we're having to buy ingredients for our products, and we're nobody's making money off of it. And
We're actively losing money.
we're actively eating through our savings. And I just stood in my room this morning and said out loud to God, I said, I can't quit. I'm pinned in. I'm literally pinned in, just like Balaam. And you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to come through. And he did. This afternoon, we had somebody that was willing to help out with resources, and unexpected.
In a pretty severe way.
And I did not see that. And, I've always heard stories of people who say, you read about them, that I couldn't pay my rent. And all of a sudden I got this check in the mail and somebody said, I felt like God just said, I should give you this money. And it was my rent. And I've always thought, how come that never happens to me? How come nobody just sends me money? And this morning after I prayed, like I said, this afternoon, we had somebody that was willing to, or just felt like they needed to just help support us in this. And I was speechless, but I was pinned in, and I said, you're going to have to do something. And you would think that would be enough, that the next time I feel pinned in and I feel like we don't have enough resources, I'll doubt 100%. I will doubt, are we on the right path? Should I quit? Where's God?
Do you think there's a path, though, that you can get to where you don't doubt?
I think so. I think it just takes a lot of time. Like, I'm finally to the point in my life where I really do believe that there's a God. Like, you can say it and say it and say it, but
Sometimes I get
there's
it.
this little bit of doubt.
Question.
What if?
Yeah.
What if we're doing all this and there's not really a God out there, and everything you thought is not true, and you are going to fall big time? That for sure, that's that fear. And we've talked about it before. I don't know if I should call him your dad or Donnie or my husband, but
Just call him Donnie.
Donnie, his dad, my husband. One time years ago, I said, what if there's not a God? What if all of this is just made up? And he said, well, you know what? I guess you'll die and you'll never know. Either you die and did you see Jesus's face the next thing you know, or you die and there's an end.
Yeah.
So what does it, he said, I'd rather live my life believing that there's a God. I'm going to open up my eyes and see Jesus's face and it be wrong. But I'd rather live my life like that. So, I think that was, all those little steps, that I'd rather have the faith, but I'm not there anymore. Like, I believe that there is a God, we're here, and his plan isn't to abandon us. And
so what do you think you can do to actively get better at that and not just say,
I think it takes being pinned in.
I'm saying, how can you think you can get to a point where you don't have to be pinned in anymore?
Probably in some areas. I think
I'm talking about financially.
Oh, financially. I don't know, because finances are so hard. You know, if I mess up and I don't know, leave the gate open and our dog runs away. I mean, that was like devastating for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you pick yourself up from that. But if you don't have finances and they come and take your house, and then which is our farm and our vehicles and whatever, you know,
Yeah.
there's
consequences
outside of your control. So that's why I feel like finances are just so scary, because you can lose stuff. Like, you could end up with nothing.
What if there's blessings on the other side of that, though?
I don't know. I mean, like, I go to worst case scenario. You know, we lose the farm, we lose our house.
Well, I think in all of these scenarios that you make up, you don't try to do anything, though.
Right. And
like,
I think that's the other question.
Like, if we did get to a place where it was super hard and there was no money, well, you would go get a job somewhere.
Right. And that's the hard part is, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough for God to step in? Like you said, if I don't get out of bed, nobody's going to feed me. Well, should I be doing something right now? Should we have Donnie go back to work? Should I?
Well, since the whole beginning of the podcast, you said we need a mirror.
Oh, no, I know. So that's what I'm saying is, there's that question of,
but the question's answered.
Am I too hands off? Am I doing enough? And that's the question I don't know the answer to in other things in life. You said, can you get better at it? I think there's always this question of, well, have I done everything I can so God can step in? Because God isn't going to.
I don't think that's how God works, though. You don't have to earn God's.
No, but it's like you said, if I don't get out of bed, nobody's going to feed me. I got to do my part. So what if I'm not doing my part?
I don't think there's been anybody who's ever thought you weren't doing your part.
No, but that you asked me, would I ever feel like I'm not pinned in? I think that I would always question, am I doing my part?
But that's what I'm asking. Why? Why do you question that? Why are you questioning not doing your part? Not doing enough?
Like, what if I'm wrong? Like, I think about that sometimes.
What if you're wrong about what?
I'm
the
like
farm?
the cheerleader of faith, you know, God will come through. And
what if you're wrong about what?
God's hand on this farm? What if it's
that
not
was
true?
reiterated today?
I know, but I'm just saying, you know, when you're down and you're doubting and all of those things, these are the questions that come to mind. And I just sat there this morning. That's where I was. Like, what if everything I've said is just a big lie? What if?
Sounds like you need to start writing this stuff down.
No, that is true. And that is helpful to write things down, write your prayers down, and then go back and see God's answered prayer.
And that's something I always wonder is, like, are you locking yourself out of blessings God's trying to give you because you won't let go of something?
Well, look at Balaam. I mean, the angel was there and he wanted to control. He wanted
But have you ever thought that on the farm, like, there might be more financial freedom if you let go of that?
Let go of what?
The control of finances.
Well, I have let go. That's what's scary is I've let go. Donnie could have gone back to work. He could have gone back to his accounting job, but we let go.
I'm talking about the worrying when it gets hard.
Oh. No, I'm always going to worry about it. I mean, I feel like maybe that is my plan B, is worrying about it. Because if I don't worry about it, well, then who's going to worry about it?
But no one needs to worry about it. But
yeah,
just some of our
So when's the time you have felt pinned in? I don't know how long we've been going, but we've been talking about me and the farm and where you felt like you couldn't turn. I mean, it literally says in Numbers 22, the donkey couldn't turn to the right or to the left. And where have you felt like you were just pinned in?
Maybe we should talk about that next episode. I feel like we can.
Okay.
There's a whole episode length of stuff to talk about.
Okay. All right. Any plays on the
feeling
farm?
Pinned in. On the farm, I think that goes into it too.
Okay.
I just think all of that can be. We'll talk about that next week.
All right.
Just a little deeper into my story of starting the farm, I guess.
All right. And I know we've talked about it a little bit, with graduating and making this choice. But I talk to our listeners out there. If you have a place where you have felt pinned in, where have you seen God? How did God come through? Or maybe he hasn't yet. And I think that's even harder. It's when you feel pinned in, but he's there. And just like with Balaam, he was pinned in. He got mad at his donkey, and then he could see God. So maybe you're pinned in a place and you haven't seen God yet. What is that? How is that?
I heard a phrase a long time ago. I don't remember where it was from, but it was, be careful sometimes where you ask to see God, because it might not show up in the way you want.
Oh. Yeah.
Like sometimes seeing God might be in a car accident where you're pinned in, where you might lose your legs or something like that, where you really you have no other choice but to turn to God.
Yeah.
So.
And I know there's 100% of us have been pinned in. And I can't imagine being pinned in without trusting in God. That's the scariest place to be. And I doubt, but deep down, I know there's a God. Like that's not a question for me.
You think doubting's control?
Yeah.
Like almost like feeling an emotion bad about the situation makes you feel like you're caring and doing your part.
I think so, because it's controlling. It's doing something. Yes.
In your mind, you're controlling it by worrying about it and doubting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't imagine being in a place like that and not having God. So, if you're out there questioning, you feel pinned in, and you don't understand, you don't know that there is a God out there who does care about you, and
have any questions about it or want to share your story.
Yeah.
Would be.
We'll put the website. I'm not the website. We'll put our.
Yeah. Way to plug our website.
While you're at it, if you want to shop at. No, we'll put our email address up there, and you can email us. And like we said last week, we'll pray with you. We'll pray for you. But first and foremost, it's about, you've got to have that relationship with God.
And it takes time and work.
Yeah.
Neither of us are sitting here and saying it's perfect.
No.
I don't want to get that from this episode that I was just asking her about. We'll go into it next week of mine.
Oh, yeah. He'll have his day.
But I think we can wrap it up there for today.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to another episode of Lavender Fields Flop. We might change the title of the podcast in the future. We're not sure.
I don't know. I like it. We'll pray about it.
We're trying to see, because the podcast has taken a shift since we started.
Yeah. But we do bring it back to the farm, because
and once again, the farm's our identity.
It is
like it's like, I know you're not supposed to, but
supposed to what?
Let your job be your identity.
Oh,
but
well, when you live there and you just 24/7, you live it, breathe it. You can't help it. It is.
That is very true.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for listening, and remember, lavender grows best on rocky soil.
That's right. What would you do if our dogs just started talking to us? That'd be crazy.
Yeah.